Okay, this is 2.5, solving equations involving absolute value. Here are your key concepts. Go ahead and get these copied into your notes. And no, a screenshot does not constitute as copying these down. So make sure you get these all into your notes. Okay, our first key concept is absolute value. Now the absolute value, the definition of that is distance from zero. And distance is always non-negative. Now a common misconception is that absolute value is the opposite, and that is not true. Absolute value is the distance from zero. And we know from science that distance can never be non-negative. So let's look at the absolute value of x equal 4. And absolute value is represented by those two long marks right there. Absolute value of x is 4. So what could x be? Well, x could be 4. If we take the absolute value of 4, that equals 4. Or if we take the absolute value of negative 4, that also equals 4. So we have two possibilities for what x could equal, 4 or negative 4. So in each absolute value equation, we must consider both cases. We solve by using the following. First, we want to isolate the absolute value sign to one side of the equal sign. We drop the bars and set up two cases. Make one positive and the other negative. Okay? Isolate your absolute value sign, drop the bars, and set up two cases. Alright, first example, I do. That means I want you to write down whatever I'm doing onto your paper. Okay? So this example says to evaluate each expression. What does that evaluate word mean? It means to find the value, right? So it says absolute value of m plus 6 minus 14. So we have the absolute value of m, which is 4, plus 6 minus 14. And 4 plus 6 is 10. Take the absolute value of that, minus 14. And the absolute value of 10 we know is 10 minus 14. And 10 minus 14 is negative 4. Okay, I would like you to try this one. So I would like you to do the best you can on this, and then when you're ready for the answer, go ahead and replay me. Okay, so I'm going to plug in x equal 2. We have 23 minus 3 minus 4 times 2, absolute value, and 23 minus 3 minus 8, 4 times 2 is 8. 23 minus 3 minus 8 is negative 5. Absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. And we have 23 minus 5. And 23 minus 5 is 18. Hopefully you got that one. Alright, this one is going to be an I do. Now this one has an equal sign. Right? It has an equal sign in here. So what were those instructions that I gave you at the very beginning of the lesson? It said to isolate your absolute value. Well, in this case, I don't have anything to the left or to the right of my absolute value, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my next step. And my next step said to drop the bars and set one equal to a positive and one equal to a negative. One side's positive and the other side's negative. Then, at this step, you just solve. So I have minus 5, and then I have f equal 12. And then here I subtract 5, and f equals negative 22. So to write my final answer, I'm going to do those crazy little bracket things. And I have 12, comma, negative 22 as my final answer. Okay, I'll do this one again. Whoops. Pen. I do. Let's look at this problem. This one says absolute value of b minus 1 equals negative 3. Well, what did we talk about the absolute value being? Can absolute value ever be negative? No, because absolute value is distance, and distance can never be distance can never be negative. So, is there anything that I can plug into B that will give me an answer of -3? No, there's nothing that I can take the absolute value of, and I'll get my answer as -3. So in this case, there is no solution. Nothing will happen that I plug into B to spit out a -3. You'll like those whenever you see those. Okay, here's a you do. You do this one as best you can. When you're ready for an answer, go ahead and replay me. Okay, so at this step, you should have isolated your absolute value. In this case, it's already isolated for me, so I'm going to drop and split. Y plus 2 equal 4, and y plus 2 equal -4. I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides, and y equal 2. Subtract 2 on this side, and y equal -6. So my answer should have been 2 and -6. If it's not, please make your changes on your notes. Otherwise, let's go on to the next one. Alright, you do this one, and when you're ready for the answer, go ahead and replay me. Well, you should have noticed that this is the absolute value of a negative number, and because you can't ever take an absolute value and get a negative, that is no solution. Okay, this says the temperature of an enclosure for a pet snake should be about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take about 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Find the maximum and minimum temperatures. Well, let's think about that on a number line. Here we have a number line at 80 degrees. And it says give or take 5 degrees. So, if I give 5 degrees, that would be 81, 82, 83, and 84, 85 to the right, and 79, 78, 77, 76, and 75 to the left. I gave 5, and I took 5. So my maximum and minimum temperatures here would be 75 would be my minimum, and 85 would be my maximum. Okay, you do. And replay me when you're ready. Okay, an ice cream shop should be stored at 5 degrees Fahrenheit with an allowance for 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Write and solve an equation to find the maximum and minimum temperatures at which the ice cream should be stored. Okay, so I drew a number line for you, starting at 5 degrees, but we give an allowance for 5 degrees on each side. So looking at my graph, I see that my temperatures will be between 0 and 10, starting at 5 with an allowance of 5 degrees on each side. So my answer is from 0 and 10. Okay, that's all the lesson there is. So now I would like you to try your extra practice on page 105. I'd like you to do 2 through 10 even. And we'll talk about those the next time we see each other.